what you want, when you want it, where you want it. This is The Mesh.
This podcast is sponsored by the 2019 Footcandle Film Festival. This year's film festival will be held September 27th through 29th in Hickory, North Carolina. Learn more by visiting footcandlefilmfestival.com.
Footcandle Films. Film news and reviews from two guys who really like movies.
This episode is brought to you by the Footcandle Film Society. For a schedule of upcoming screenings and membership information, visit the Society's website at www.footcandle.org.
Hello and welcome to Footcandle Films here on themesh.tv. My name is Alan Jackson. I am co-director and co-founder of the Footcandle Film Society and the Footcandle Film Festival. With me, Chris Fry. Ditto on all those same titles.
Yes, that is true.
Co-director, co-founder, Footcandle Film Society, Footcandle Film Festival.
Yes.
How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing good. Looking forward to hearing your opinions on these two movies, both of which I think we've maybe mentioned in news segments, maybe in passing, the ones we're going to review on the show today.
I think so. I think these have been some films that we have talked about in the past, maybe while they're in the production, and now we have a chance to actually have seen the final films, and now we're going to review them. That is going to be the first part of our show. This is here on the Footcandle Films. What we do is we review a couple of films, ones that are normally in the theaters or maybe just gone to video on demand, but fairly new films to see. We're going to review two films today, followed by our news items, where we talk about some other upcoming movies, maybe ones we'll be reviewing in the much distant future. And then also we'll end up our show with our recommendation, where Chris and I both pick a film, or each pick a film that we think is worth your time, maybe revisiting, or something you might have missed that we think might make for a good weekend viewing if you're looking for something to do in the coming days. Chris, we have two films to review, both of them still playing in theaters. One making quite a bit of money. The other one, maybe not so much. I'll let you pick and see which one you think is which. First off, we'll be discussing the latest Pixar/Disney computer animated film in the Toy Story series. It is Toy Story 4. Followed by a review of the latest film by director Jim Jarmusch, starring Bill Murray and Adam Driver, called The Dead Don't Die. So with that, why don't we go ahead and get started into our first review, which is Toy Story 4.
Everyone, Bonnie made a friend in class.
Oh, she's already making friends.
No, she literally made a new friend. I want you to meet Forky.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Ah!
He's a spork.
Yes, yeah, I know. Forky is the most important toy to Bonnie right now. We all have to make sure nothing happens to him.
Woody, we have a situation.
I am not a toy. I was made for soup, salad, maybe chili, and then the trash.
When it was announced that there was to be a Toy Story 4, many people, even the most avid Pixar fans, asked themselves, why? Toy Story 3 had put a bow on the series box set. Why make another movie? Was it just so Disney would be able to release a new special edition box set? Now that we've seen Toy Story 4, Alan, do you think this film is a worthy addition to the franchise? Or in the words of Forky, is it trash?
Okay, it's not trash.
Okay.
But I do question why this film was necessary. Because I do think Toy Story 3 ended
already. This is going to be an awesome review.
Okay.
Yes. I'm excited when Alan and I disagree.
All right. I felt like I have a perfect rationale of what they should have done with this film. I liked it. I thought it was good. It's a Toy Story movie. It's a well-made movie. And if you had never seen any of the other Toy Story films and you saw this, and you had some semblance of the background. I mean, it's an amazing film. Both humor, characters, the animation's gorgeous. We're going to talk about that in a little bit.
Okay.
But in the grand scheme of things, I could not help that I was watching maybe what would have been if Toy Story had been a TV show and this was going to be an episode of the Toy Story TV show. Good story, had some fun moments to it, fine, but it didn't have this sense of being essential that I felt like maybe the three previous chapters did. And I think hurts it because I do feel like Toy Story 3 was such a great closing chapter, the way it ended the film and kind of moving on to this next phase in these toys' lives. Here, we're brought into a myriad of different stories. It was kind of interesting that they really had a lot of different little storylines going on. Starts with the Forky thing, which I think we got to at least preface. And
you have to acknowledge
we got to
Forky.
set up Forky.
Yeah, you have to.
Forky is the new toy joining Woody and the gang, who was created by Bonnie, who is the now godlike child that the toys all work for. And I like how it's set up like that. Like she's the boss and like these toys all just kind of do her bidding. It's kind of that way.
It was Andy in the first
It was Andy
movies.
in the first 2 to 3 movies. And then
Now
the
it's
torch
Bonnie.
got passed on to Bonnie.
Right.
And she creates Forky out of a plastic spork and some pipe cleaner and some googly eyes. And he becomes a toy. And by becoming a toy, I guess the magic is that he now becomes sentient and has a personality and has everything else associated with that. Mm-hmm. I like the whole Forky thing. I think it added some really interesting philosophical questions to the whole mix, which is good. But the Forky thing kind of lost steam about halfway through the film, and it became the Woody story, which I like the Woody story too, but it was a myriad of different things going on in the film that did for me make this film less impactful than the other ones had been. And it felt more like a holiday special or a TV episode or something of a lesser version of the film Toy Story films. Honestly, what they should have done in my mind is this should have been Woody's Last Ride, Woody's something. It should have been a Woody movie because it really was a Woody movie. It was all about Woody in the last 2/3 of the film. And the other characters I felt like got some really short-changed use compared to the previous 3 films. So mine is a mixed review. I thought the film on its own was really good and entertaining and fun. I have some really great call-out positive moments of the film. But I feel like the essentialness of it was lacking. And I felt like the mixed match of storylines that they were trying to carry through and messages they're trying to share didn't make for a great cohesive film that I felt like the other 3 had. So, Chris,
interesting.
Toss it over. Tell me how you feel like I am wrong.
Well, I think this is the way it should be. Hopefully, who knows? When I was one of the people when it was announced they were doing a Toy Story 4, hence my intro, I was kind of like, why? I don't really see it. Now after having seen this, and I'm going to dance around spoilers, the way this film ends and where a certain character, where Woody ends up, to me seems like, okay, now this is closing. Because in Toy Story 3, and I can spoil that, if you haven't watched Toy Story 3, you're probably not listening to this review.
We're past the period of time where you have to worry about spoiling it now.
Right.
Yeah.
For Toy Story 3, short of them actually going into the incinerator, that would not have been a surprise. And I thought, most people sitting in the theater with me, I think, thought that was actually going to happen. Mm-hmm. When that didn't happen, and all he does is go off with a new kid, I'm like, oh, okay. So, yeah, I'm glad they didn't die because I cared for the characters just like a lot of other people did. Mm-hmm. But as far as becoming truly original or truly different, just going on to another kid, I was like, okay, yep. And now they can make a million other Toy Story movies. And then when they did make Toy Story 4, I was like, oh, yeah, so they're just going to continue on with Bonnie's 3 movies. And it's like, that's your way of generating new franchises just by hopping to different kids. A, I hope this really is the last one. And B, Woody's character arc from the very first Toy Story to this one focuses more on like letting go and realizing that you have to center your own happiness around yourself first and not always depend on others, and kind of being able to let go. In a lot of ways, this movie felt like, to me, empty nest movie when parents watch their kids go off to college, and then you have to learn how to then do stuff on your own and make your own. You've kind of forgotten because you've been so invested in raising children, and then what happens when you're no longer doing that. So kind of like a movie about retirement or something. That being said,
I agree. one of the messages in the film at a certain part of the film that was being conveyed.
And I agree. I really liked the Forky character. But yeah, his story is kind of dropped and it does become Woody's.
Well, and again, I feel like the film was trying to do too much by almost having, 2, maybe 3 through lines that we're supposed to follow. And the Forky one was interesting, but I do feel like they kind of hit a wall where like, well, we don't really know what else to do with this now. But we want to concentrate on Woody because Woody, we want to give some.
Well, his story though does dovetail with Woody's in that Woody is responsible for, or feels responsible, takes on the responsibility of being the shepherd for Forky,
right?
Kind of like so. But then, there again, not doing spoilers, kind of like Woody's role in his character arc. I think. I thought it was interesting.
There are definitely things about the film that are really positive. I don't want to give this off like a negative. Comparing it to the previous 3 Toy Story films, which are all very strong cinematic achievements, and for me to say it's probably my least favorite of the 4 is not a slight against the film. It's just in the grand scheme of things.
How high you hold the other ones in esteem. Sure, I get that.
I still love Tom Hanks as Woody. I think it's one of the greatest animated characters. I thought the animation in this film was absolutely stunning. There are some moments. One moment in particular, inside the antique store, which everything inside the antique store was just
really cool, gorgeously
rendered.
Yeah,
but there is a scene where they're on top of some bookshelves, looking out at a moment when all the lights and lamps in this antique store come on, and it's pretty breathtaking. And there's a couple times I had to remind myself that when we're seeing trees and everything outside, landscapes, that this is an animated film. These are not real things I'm watching. And it's pretty crazy that they got to that point.
I'll add, I agree with that shot. Another one that I'd actually jotted down in my notes was there's a shot that comes at one point when characters are again up high, and it's Woody is one of the characters, and they're looking out and having this big, conversation. But in the background, you see the fair. They're at kind of like an amusement park, fairground type place, and you see the lights of like the Ferris wheel going around. And to have that as a backdrop, and of course it's constantly moving because Ferris wheels hopefully continue to move so people can get off the ride. But having all that going on in the background felt like watching like an Alfred Hitchcock movie or something. Of course, a lot of those are in black and white, but some type of like thriller movie or something, or like The Lost Boys, that movie where they had the theme park in the background. Right. Yeah, there's jumping around Alfred Hitchcock to Lost Boys, but where they had some parts of their film took place at like an amusement park place with rides, or something as similar to like Us recently, that film, totally different type of film, but you got to see all the garish lights and it adds a lot to kind of the background. Well, that was going on in a Toy Story movie. And I was like, wow, that's really impressive how they got that. But, it's slightly out of focus, but yet I don't know, it's just really impressive to me.
Everything animation-wise is gorgeous on this film. Absolutely gorgeous. And the voice acting is always strong. It always is in the Toy Story movies. It's very good here. I do want to call out Tony Hale as Forky. I thought, such an odd character to be adding into this mix.
It is.
It works in the first half. I think there's a sequence of what I can only describe as Forky trying to get rid of himself for like a good several minutes that I thought was hilarious.
And it has the Randy Newman song, I Can't Let You Throw Yourself Away.
So just some great moments there.
Good stuff.
I liked, we did have also Key and Peele doing a part. Did you have some issues with that?
Okay.
Because I thought they were funny.
I didn't.
Okay.
And I think I'm one of the few people in this world who didn't. I have still to this day have never seen a Key and Peele episode.
I have not. It's not that I've watched a bunch of them, but I thought they were.
I've never seen skits. I know who they are as individuals.
I think it was a nice style of humor to bring into the film that we don't normally see. So.
Yeah, and it just didn't work for me. And I don't know if you're saying you don't have background with them. So I thought that was the problem. I was like, oh, well, I don't get it because I haven't seen like their background. Well, and maybe if I saw their background,
I don't know. I don't think that really helped. It just worked for me. My boys and I, we chuckled the most at those parts.
Really?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
There's a sequence.
Yeah, I got more irritated. And I was like,
no, the sequence where they're talking through their plan of what to do.
The first time or the second time?
Well, I mean, the first time, the main time in the film. You know, the second time later in the film was a little repetitive, but the first time in the film when it goes on for a good long extended sequence, and it's actually, I thought, pretty clever and funny. So it worked for me.
There again, maybe if I felt more kindred with the actual people doing the voice work, or unfortunately, at least in the preview that I had seen a million times in the theater before seeing this movie, that moment was spoiled.
Oh, see, it wasn't for me. I never saw them in trailers.
Okay, so if I
don't think I even ever saw a trailer for this film.
Oh, well,
I don't think I did.
Good on you. Unfortunately, I did.
So maybe it got a little overplayed for you.
Yeah, because I'd seen it.
I thought it was good.
I'd seen it at least twice in the theater. So the fact that the joke was already spoiled, A, and then B, like, I don't know, it just didn't really.
I thought their parts worked. I could see it's a different type of humor than you normally have in the Toy Story movies with characters. So maybe it worked for some, didn't work for others. I don't know. It was definitely more of a coarser humor, more what you might get from a lot of other animated movies. And but it worked for me. I thought it was fun. I thought it added a kind of an interesting little humorous take on some of the parts of the film. So, you know, those are kind of the newer faces, I guess. Everybody else, for the most part.
And there is another new face.
Oh, Keanu Reeves.
And unlike Jordan Peele and Keegan-Michael Key, their characters, Ducky and Bunny, they didn't work for me. Mm-hmm. However, Duke Kaboom, voiced by Keanu Reeves, totally worked. And there again, maybe it's just a humor type thing. That's it. And just, you know, maybe if I were to go back and watch it again, maybe it was the mood I was in. Maybe I'd get the Ducky and Bunny better. But yeah, Duke Kaboom. I felt like basically the Key and Peele things, I felt like they were kind of shoehorned in a little bit. It's like, okay, these guys are a hot item. And they've been a hot item. They're a comedy team. Maybe we are trying to appeal a little bit to the adult crowd who knows who these guys are. Mm-hmm. And they put it in there. And I'm not saying it totally ruined the movie. I just thought it was okay, but I was expecting more, especially from those two gentlemen who I've heard so much about. Whereas Keanu Reeves, like when they were planning this, you know, he's been around forever. He is kind of having a renaissance this year with, you know, John Wick, and he was in a Netflix movie, which apparently was the only thing good about the Netflix movie he was in. Always Be My Maybe. I currently have not seen it.
I have seen most of it, yes.
Okay, have you seen his cameo?
I have, yes.
Of course. So that's the reason you watch it.
Yeah.
I thought he was really good in Duke Kaboom. And granted, I guess it's because they give his character an actual arc, so it may just come down to the writing.
Yeah.
But yeah, his final moment or whatever, where he's given kind of center stage, really, really worked for me, and I liked it.
Right.
And some of his funny antics had also been spoiled by said trailer.
Yeah.
But it was okay because I still felt like he was given enough to do.
You mentioned, how the Key and Peele, their characters, you felt kind of shoehorned in. It's kind of how I felt about a lot of parts of the film. I mean, take for example, you know, all the other Toy Story characters outside of Woody and the new ones that were brought in really had nothing to do here. And even Buzz Lightyear.
They kind of hang out in an RV.
Buzz Lightyear was given kind of you could call it kind of a side quest, like a video game, that really didn't do anything. And he was with the two characters that Key and Peele were playing for part of that side quest. Very extraneous, not really essential to the plot, didn't have to be there. That was a little part of the film that did frustrate me to some degree, because I feel like the formula gets very similar with all these films. I love the emotional moments. I love the character development moments. I love the quieter moments. But when everything turns into a chase, or we have to go do A so that B can happen, and we got to do it in time for C to happen, it becomes very routine. And there was a part of this film where I just felt like, okay, everybody's just running around trying to do something, and I'm just going to turn off the brain trying to remember why they're doing what they're doing. They just have to get to the end result.
Sure.
And it happens in every one of these Toy Story movies. There is a chase, there is a rescue, there's a
rescue at the end of Toy Story 3.
Very similar.
Yeah, absolutely.
I could not tell you what they were trying to accomplish in the latter half of the film, other than they had to get to this point.
Sure.
How to get there, I don't understand. Or why they needed these people to do these things, don't understand, don't really follow. And I feel like that was their way of saying, well, we've been spending so much time with Woody and Forky and these new characters in the antique shop. but we got to have something for the other characters to do because it's a Toy Story movie. So let's just build this little chase sequence or thing to give them something to do. So that's why I kind of wish this had been a Woody spinoff movie. Okay, imagine Toy Story 3 ended.
Sure.
And that was the Toy Story saga. But now, Woody. Let's have a Woody standalone movie. And that would have been perfect because it really was all about Woody in the end. And I'm fine with that. I liked it. But it was just disappointing that, you have such a great ensemble of so many other characters. And I just felt like the film was really struggling to figure out what to do with everybody. And I like the new characters that were introduced. And we haven't even talked about, kind of the quote villain Gabby, played by Christina Hendricks, which I thought was really good. Right. Also, very well rendered as an animation.
Yeah.
Like both creepy and enduring all at the same time.
Her creepy. How about the ventriloquist dolls?
You mean the Morrissey ventriloquist?
Those were awesome.
No, that was my favorite moments of the film. Those characters and the fact that they never really talked, and it was just so good. And I like, without spoiling, I like the interesting story arc they took with Gabby by the end of the film.
Yeah.
Because we had been used to a certain type of villain in Toy Story for the last couple of films.
Definitely for 2 and 3.
2 and 3 were very similar.
Right.
And I think they took a little different angle with this one, and I liked where it ended.
Agreed.
I think Gabby's last scene in the film was really good. It was a little nice emotional scene, and it worked on a different level than we're used to seeing for the villains. So there was a lot to like with the film. I wish I didn't feel like it was just treading water in a lot of places just to get to this final character development with Woody, which is what the film, I think, ultimately just wanted to achieve. I wish the Forky thing had become more of an impactful thing in the story later in the film, but again, I'm comparing a really, really good animated film against other really, really good animated films. And
sure.
I just have to say this is my least favorite of the 4, but it's still a good film. And it's something I would recommend. My thing is I still think Toy Story 2 is my favorite. It just has enough going on with it and enough interesting characters and the bit with Jessie and the Sarah McLachlan song. I mean,
sure.
I'm sorry, that's still one of the best animated film sequences ever. Probably 2, 1, 3, 4. It's kind of where I am with it.
Okay.
So, yeah. Anyway, any closing thoughts, likes, dislikes, things?
Yeah, we've hit on all of them. I would have to watch them again to really fairly rank them. But I guess just because this is the most recent one I've seen, I hold it pretty high. But I think if memory serves and correct, I like the first one okay. I really do remember responding strongly to the second one because I felt like they really did a lot of really interesting things. Yeah. And the third one, I just thought was okay.
The third one, the only thing I remember about the third one is the ending scene.
Okay.
Like the ending climactic scene. Yeah, which was so well done.
Sure.
So good, but I really couldn't tell you much about the rest of the film.
And I think that's the thing with me, too, is that it was enjoyable. And like we say, these are a pretty high watermark, all of them together. Mm-hmm. So 2 would definitely be at the top. I think 4 may be right below it. I think 1 and 3 would fall like lower.
One has... I mean, 1 is a classic, and it's got the core.
There's nothing wrong with it. It's just
it's story-wise, it's a little on the slighter side. And, of course, the animation.
Sure, but it's not.
It's tough, unfortunately. When the first Toy Story came out, I mean, you watch it and you're like, wow, this is amazing. And they're making, they look so realistic.
Right.
And then you see, like, by now, number 4, you go back and actually see clips from 1. You're like, ugh. Yeah, it just doesn't, it doesn't hold up. But, again, that's not the fault of anybody making the film. It was just the technology available at the time.
Sure.
I guess the hole in the back of my mind too, Chris, with this is if they come out with a Toy Story 5 and a certain character shows back up, it's going to make me kind of angry now. It's like I'm to a point where, if you give some closure and do closure, and that's fine. But there's a little bit of that nagging in the back of my head as I'm watching even the end of Toy Story 4 thinking,
there's no way they're going to be able to let this go. They're going to make a 5th one, and it's going to irritate me because I know certain people will probably be together, and that'll irritate. I think that's valid. But there again, for me personally, I was not against, but kind of like, why for Toy Story 4? I feel like I understand why.
You felt like there was enough of a justification for why.
Right off the bat, like you're saying, Toy Story 5, my immediate question would be, why? But maybe they could prove me wrong.
Well, and
they did with 4.
And I'm not saying that they shouldn't make a Toy Story 5. I actually think where 3 would have been the nice closure to it, they didn't close it with 3.
Right.
They have 4.
Sure.
4 still keeps everything else open, with the exception of a few key characters.
Sure.
So I'm fine if I heard that Toy Story 5 now featured those other characters I felt like got short shift in this movie. I'm okay with that because that's actually a way to keep it going, but just don't ruin another ending of one of these Toy Story films going forward. So I guess that maybe is impacting me a little bit in the back of my head saying, you've done this to me once. You gave me a nice closure and then you kind of went backwards on it. So
see, and I think in a weird way, at the time, 2 is my favorite. At least I think it is. 3 I liked, but I thought it was just okay. And in a way, I was a little dissatisfied with the ending of 3 because I felt like it was too easy.
Yeah,
and
it was,
I feel like 4's ending is a little harder, but you're right. If they make a 5 and they do a certain cop out, then I'll be a little cranky.
We'll be back on the show talking about it.
Absolutely.
So I will remind you of that before you say, I love it.
Fair enough. Okay. Fair enough.
All right. Well, that is Toy Story 4. Please don't take it is a good film. It is an enjoyable film. Absolutely. If you like any of the Toy Story movies at all, you will like parts or elements at the minimum of this film.
Sure.
Just my only concern is I just felt like maybe it could have been a better special TV episode, could have been something, or just make it a standalone Woody movie. And I felt like it would have fit better, but I was a little disappointed. I don't feel like it was a singular, cohesive story that incorporated all the great characters we've known for so long. So.
I'll say, final closing thought for me. I overall did enjoy the film. Thought it was a, good installment. I love Forky, but I will say kind of what you are hinting at. If I was to say a negative, other than I felt like the Key and Peele characters are maybe a little shoehorned. Mm-hmm. I did kind of get a sense, and it started out as Buzz Lightyear, but then I can see what you're saying about some of the other supporting characters. They were maybe sidelined a little too much, whereas the other movies kind of have a team aspect to it. Yeah, there's still a lot focused on Woody, but it started off being like, man, Buzz Lightyear is really non-existent in this film. But then I have realized that, a lot of the other smaller characters are also really sidelined. So
they're pretty much in an RV most of the movie.
So I would have appreciated maybe a little bit more
Buzz
inclusion.
Lightyear, I will say, I'll call out just to kind of follow up on that. Yeah, that was one I can specifically call out.
Sure.
He's non-existent most of the film. When he is there, he is given a very, I thought, kind of a dumb subplot that really didn't make any difference in anything.
In all honesty, as I'm sitting here, I cannot remember the quote unquote mission that he and Key and Peele were trying to.
I don't know what they were trying to do.
I can't remember right now.
But also
either.
remember Buzz kind of had this whole thing about the voice in his head, which got to be kind of dumb after a while, and just again made no impact on the rest of the film.
Gotcha.
So it was just, I felt like it's like, well, we've got Tim Allen and we've got a character that everybody loves, but we didn't really write him in the script. So let's figure out how to just cram him in there for a few scenes, And that's disappointing because I always thought the Toy Story was very much the Buzz Woody dynamic,
sure.
And we really didn't get that in this film.
Sure.
So it was pretty present in all 3 of the other films. So, okay, I think we've talked enough about Toy Story 4. Toy Story 4 in theaters, still making money, worth seeing. So, let's move on to a film that may not be in your theater by the time you hear this. May not be making tons of money, but we're still going to talk about it anyway. It is the latest zombie film, strangely enough, from writer-director Jim Jarmusch. The Dead Don't Die.
In this peaceful town, on these quiet streets, something terrifying, something horrifying is coming.
This is really awful. Maybe the worst thing I've ever seen.
What was it, wild animals?
So what are you thinking?
I'm thinking zombies.
What?
The undead. Ghouls.
Chris, with The Dead Don't Die, we take some elements that I think many of us in society are very used to seeing when it comes to the zombie movie. the type of genre that really over the last 10 years, I think thanks to The Walking Dead TV show and resurgence in some zombie-related movies, 127 Hours, I believe. Not 127.
28 days later.
28 days later.
Unless you're calling James Franco a zombie. Which
I was still in Danny Boyle, talking Danny Boyle films. Okay, it was 28. Yeah, you're right. Not 128 days later. It's 28 days later.
Right.
Yeah, that was actually funny. So you have some of these films in the last 10 to 15 years have kind of given us a resurgence of the zombie genre pick.
Sure.
Then I tell you, okay, we're going to do a zombie film. We're going to put Bill Murray in the lead role. Okay. Now
not his first zombie film. He did Zombieland.
No, he did Zombieland as a supporting character. This one he's credited as kind of a lead.
Oh, sure.
You throw in Adam Driver. You've got also Chloe Sevigny. You've got Danny Glover. You've got a really great, interesting cast.
Huge cast.
And you're pitching the film as kind of a comedy. Okay, at this point, I think you have kind of gotten people excited. All right? The Dead Don't Die, zombie film with some great cast, and it's going to be kind of a funnier movie type of thing. But what I don't think a lot of people that maybe bought a ticket for The Dead Don't Die are realizing that they're going into a film written and directed by Jim Jarmusch, who you may or may not be familiar with his work because, I mean, he's not the most prolific filmmaker, but also he's, not one that's known for a lot of box office success with them either.
Right.
You do have recently Only Lovers Left Alive, which did explore vampires. So he is kind of dipping into the genre picks a little bit.
Yeah.
Broken Flowers is probably one I think maybe a lot of people might be a little familiar with.
Because
starring
of Bill Murray.
Mm-hmm. Patterson starred Adam Driver just maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Going all the way back, Stranger Than Paradise, Gimme Danger, a lot of great films, but very much art house independent films with all those. So Chris, take the role of somebody walking in to buy a ticket. They see on the movie poster, oh, hey, look, Bill Murray's in a funny zombie movie. I'm going to buy a ticket for this in my date, and we're going to go in and watch this. Talk me through what their reaction is going to be, and did it differ from the reaction you had in watching this film?
I can't imagine anyone walking into this movie and coming out satisfied. And here's why I say that. If you don't know anything about Jim Jarmusch, I think you're going to be actively pissed off.
Yeah.
But I would hate to be a theater employee and people just I imagine people just being irate. Like, what the heck did I just
You're talking about the non-cinephiles,
correct,
general population,
correct,
going to see a zombie movie with Bill Murray. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
However, I don't know if I would consider myself a fan of Jim Jarmusch, but I've definitely seen a lot of his films. I like him okay. But because of that, I also walked out of the theater disappointed.
Okay.
Because you mentioned another one of his genre films that he's kind of done, Only Lovers Left Alive, that had vampires, had Tilda Swinton in it, had Tom Hiddleston.
Yep.
Both really strong actors, and cameos by other people. So well done, so well written. Cinematography was great. Just lots of things I could go on and on about that film. I don't know if we reviewed it on the show, but we may have. I can't.
No, we did not, because I have not seen it.
Oh, you have? Oh, then
no.
We didn't.
Mm-mm.
But I really like that movie. For this, I knew here again, I'm going to, we throw them under the bus all the time. I'm going to throw the trailer under the bus again for this. But you talk about the evil trailers can be, at least I knew I was going to a Jim Jarmusch film. So even though the trailer made it look really funny, you saw this cast and everything, at least I was like, yeah, but it's still going to be a Jim Jarmusch film. Mm-hmm. Whereas other poor people probably went in there thinking, and I can't imagine anyone coming out not disappointed. Here's the thing that disappointed me. He had that great cast. He had the idea of doing a zombie film with people who are not thinking for themselves. And basically, it also has a really heavy-handed political opinion to it, which I think could also turn off a lot of people because that's not hinted anywhere.
Yeah.
But I feel like he had a really good idea, but instead of Jim Jarmusch took the easy way out. I feel like he took the easy way out with this film. He didn't really try to make it clever. He didn't really try to make it funny, which I think he's capable. Yeah, there were some funny things in there, but it was just kind of like, It felt like he came up with an idea, wrote a first draft of a script, and shot this thing in maybe, I don't know, a week. Which, I don't know if any of that's true. But
and maybe didn't even give all the actors the script.
But right, maybe not. But that's what it felt like to me. Yeah. And it was such a good idea and such, he's capable of so much. And I just felt like a lot of it, I thought it was over long. It was an hour and 44 minutes. I felt like it could have been, actually, in some instances, I felt like I was watching a Saturday Night Live skit that went on. It was like, the ones that happen after the musical guest has already been on twice. It's kind of, dancing towards 1 o'clock.
10 till 1 o'clock.
It's a funny idea, but it just keeps going on and on and on. And that's what this film was for me. And I was so disappointed because it had so much potential and it just fell short. Yes, there were some jokes in it and they were kind of funny, but it was like he kept relying on those and it just got boring and irritating to me. Now, giving Mr. Jarmusch the benefit of the doubt. Maybe part of what he's trying to say, and he's saying it heavy-handed in other parts in the film, is that that's the whole point of this film. But if that's the case, that's really super, super, super insulting. Because basically it's like, yeah, I know I'm making the same joke over and over again, but that's because the American public is too dumb to understand anything, and you're getting exactly what you deserve. And the film is really, really dark. And man, the ending with Tom Waits and him observing stuff was just so also very long and kind of dry. And I thought Tom Waits was terrible in this movie and was wasted because I like him as an actor and I understand his purpose. But there again, it was kind of like, yeah, maybe Tom Waits didn't have a script. And here's your costume. This is what I want you to kind of do. And okay, just do it. And I was so bored with it after the first time we saw him on screen. Okay, but then every time after that, I was so bored of him on screen. So bored of him on screen. So, I've talked a lot, Alan. How do you feel about this film?
I don't feel as down on it as you are. I will say it was a disappointment.
Okay.
I will say I felt it was lazy.
Okay. Did that surprise? Because it's obviously, I've said it surprised me.
Yeah, it surprised me. I mean, I saw obviously what the film was trying to say, but I felt like it did it in a pretty slapdash way.
Mm-hmm. Which I can see there again. Maybe that's making some type of commentary.
Maybe,
but if so, it's pretty insulting. To me.
I will say once I kind of got my mindset and being like, okay, yeah, this film I feel like is just, hey, I'm Jim Jarmusch, and I'm good friends with Bill Murray, and I did a film with Adam Driver. And hey, guys, let's come together and let's just shoot a movie. And here's a basic outline of what we're going to do. And here's some ideas we've got for some scenes. And I want you guys to ad-lib some of the deadpan dialogue and all that. Once I got in the mindset of saying, you know what, they're just doing stuff and seeing what sticks and not, I was able to at least let myself enjoy the rest of the film a little bit more. No, it was not great. Mm-hmm. It was ultimately disappointing because as I walked away, yeah, it could have been so much more. But as it was, I'm like, all right, well, the zombie film has been done to death. I feel like, a lot of these tropes that they explore here, they're riffing on the fact that these tropes happen in these other films. And they're taking it's the most deadpan movie I think I've ever seen. But they're taking this completely different angle of how people react to these things, where instead of it's the panic, I mean, a lot of these people just seem really kind of blasé about it. It's like, oh, wow. Zombies are attacking us, and what do we do? So once I get in the mindset, I had a little more fun with it. I spent more time just waiting to see what was going to make me chuckle or not. But it, ultimately it was a letdown because I would have loved to seen a little more out of this. But there's still, my wife and I went to go see it. There's still a couple moments we still kind of quote to each other now, like little deadpan comments made between some of the characters, and there is some meta commentary, some breaking the fourth wall, which was very oddly timed and haphazard and not something they wove through very well.
No.
But it was one of those moments when it happened. It was kind of like, oh, okay, that's kind of funny.
And that's the thing is, like, I think all that could have been, but it was just, to me, it was so surprising that it wasn't better done.
It was a very slapdash movie.
Because the fourth wall stuff was funny to me. And
when you started realizing what was happening with it, you're like, oh yeah, this is actually, I see where this film's going now and the approach it's taking. But it didn't go far enough along with that. And it was very randomized how they decided to incorporate it. And it just didn't make it feel like it was a very well thought out process.
And I think that was part of the problem too, is that, and there again, giving credit to Mr. Jarmusch, I think that was part of the problem for me, is that after the first 15 minutes of this movie, I knew where it was going. Mm-hmm. But the unfortunate part is the movie was an hour and 44 minutes. It was like a boring car trip. And, even it's like, even if you have some people on the car trip with you that are fun to hang out with, like Bill Murray and Adam Driver, still can be kind of boring if, they're not given a lot to do. And maybe that's the point, is to prove the monotony and stuff. But just, it didn't make for an entertaining movie. There were some funny bits. Tilda Swinton was funny, but even her character arc of the mortician was telegraphed to me.
Oh, see, no, I did not pick up until there's a scene of her on a computer, and that's when I'm like, oh, okay, I see where they're going with this. I didn't see it until then, which made her final shot just. That was one moment where I laughed, not because of it's funny, it's just the absurdity. I'm like, okay, yeah.
Well, doesn't one of the characters say, I didn't see that coming?
Right.
Yeah, totally.
Well, and I think that's probably the thing I did kind of start to enjoy is them almost riffing on where the film was going to end up. Mm-hmm. Adam Driver's comments throughout the film, his character of just, this isn't going to end well, or I didn't see this coming type of thing. When you start to get deeper in the film and realize that he seems to be the most rational of everybody in the film.
Seems to be the most aware.
He's the most aware, and I think he's supposed to be a commentary on people in our society who are actually eyes are open to what Mr. Jarmusch feels like is happening in society around us.
Right.
Adam Driver is their surrogate for them, where everybody else is the blind masses not really paying attention. And I think once you start figuring that out, again, I see where the film's trying to hint, and sometimes it's not hinting, it's very in your face, blatant. But I think the messages they're trying to get across, I understand it. I think it was very sloppy the way it was done.
I would agree.
And I wish the film had more of what they were trying to do, as opposed to being so slight and therefore somewhat, quote, boring, in the way they did it. So it was a disappointment. But I will say, my wife and I drove an hour to go see this film because it was playing and it wasn't playing here. We didn't think it was going to show up here, and we had a free afternoon. So we drive to another city to see this. My wife is the one who suggested seeing this, which kind of shocked me. I didn't want to be the film snob and say, well, Jim Jarmusch films are typically very slow and going to be a little, I'm just like, okay, cool. Let's go see it. And I'm just like, I just want to see how this plays out. And about halfway through the movie, she looked at me. She's like, "This is kind of stupid." I'm like, "Yeah, but so let's just go for the ride." So let's just go for the ride.
Yeah, thankfully I did not invite my wife on this, and I'm really glad I didn't, because she would have hated it. Yeah. She wouldn't have. She would just been like, "Yeah, it was just kind of stupid. I was kind of over it in the first 20 minutes." So I'd be like, "Yeah, I understand that." So. I
will say a couple quick points. Not scary in the slightest, in case anybody's curious.
Is bloody.
But gory.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty hardcore gory. Yeah. So just be mindful of that. You're talking zombies, flesh-eating zombies, and it's not shying away from any of that.
No.
Definitely, it wants to weave in some political allegories at times. Sometimes beating you over the head with them. Sometimes very blatantly, visually in your face. I will say, acting-wise, Bill Murray is playing about the most deadpan Bill Murray that you could possibly play.
I will say this, because while you're talking about Bill Murray, and we've talked a little bit about some of the fourth wall comments, there is a fourth wall comment that Bill Murray makes to Adam Driver. And I will say, in that moment, I felt like it was really brutal. Mm-hmm. And I was like, whoa. And there again, because of how the screen was, it was like I was looking at Bill Murray's character as he said it, even though I think it's a two-shot. And then I kind of was like, whoa. And just basically he makes kind of a rude comment in a way. But, Bill Murray is known as he can be kind of prickly, kind of rough around the edges. And maybe he's playing all of that when he makes this comment to Adam Driver. But I was like, whoa, like that. And Adam Driver, it's in a way kind of doesn't acknowledge it, but he kind of does. And it was like really awkward. So I have to say, I've never had a fourth wall breaking moment in the theater that was that awkward. Like I was like, oh dear. Like, you know, it's like,
we may need to talk offline and remind me exactly what the verbiage was there. I remember the scene you're talking about. I just don't remember what the exact line was.
Fair enough.
The only acting I was going to call out that I thought was really interesting.
Okay.
Caleb Landry Jones playing Bobby Wiggins, the guy who owned the convenience store there.
Or Bilbo or whatever.
Yeah. I thought he was acting and he was good. I liked his character a lot. And
I think it's one of the few times I've seen him play somebody that's not either a villain or like a bapper. Like you just felt sorry for him. He was kind of a nice guy. Yeah, I thought he did a really good job.
Everybody else was just kind of cakewalking through it, I thought, and just kind of,
not that they were doing a bad job.
No, just I think they were doing what they were being asked to do, which is be as lethargic and deadpan and everything as possible.
Right.
I did feel like Caleb Landry Jones was acting, and it's about the only one. I thought everybody else was pretty.
Yeah,
they did what they're supposed to do. There wasn't a whole lot more for them to do in their parts.
Right.
Anyway, Adam Driver. I think if anybody's going to out deadpan Bill Murray, it's going to be Adam Driver. I think he's got that down pat too.
Sure.
So, and then Tom Waits. I didn't hate his role as much as you did, but it was kind of just extraneous, and I think he was only there to serve that last scene as a narrator. And
oh my gosh!
Yeah, the last scene.
Yeah, just him just narrating. Oh, so painful, so lazy.
It wasn't great.
I've never even if you Jim Jarmusch having films that are slow, that doesn't bother me. If a film's good, it doesn't matter the speed. Sometimes slow films are a little harder to get into. But Jim Jarmusch, he's just capable of doing so much. And that just seems so lazy and wasn't interesting to me. Oh man, such a shame.
Yeah.
Such a shame.
So disappointing.
Yes.
I think I came out of it just with a little better time than you did, just because I kind of checked my brain out and just said, all right, I'm just going to watch this just for kicks.
Sure.
And the moments that did amuse me after that were fun. But overall, walking out, it was still a disappointment and could have been a lot more. So that is The Dead Don't Die. Probably by the time you're hearing this, can't imagine it's going to be playing too many places right now. So
probably not. If you are a Jarmusch completist and you really like his style of filmmaking, then I'd say you probably, might be interested in checking it out after it hits online. But
I will say this, if you're someone who loves Bill Murray and just feels like you got to go see all the Bill Murray movies, you can probably skip this one.
Sure.
There's really not a lot there for Bill Murray to entertain you with. So
I wonder at the end all be all if this will be one of the higher grossing Jim Jarmusch movies, just because of how it was advertised.
Just because it's a zombie movie and it's got a big cast and all that. Yeah, I could see it probably making the most money of any of his other films. But again, that's not really saying a lot. His films don't generally generate a lot of cash. So,
True.
All right. So those are our two reviews. As we said, we talked about Toy Story 4 and The Dead Don't Die. Somewhat split reviews on them, although we're both positive on Toy Story 4. Chris higher than I am. Dead Don't Die. I came out a little higher on it, but we both agree it was disappointing as a film in general. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick break, Chris. When we come back, we're going to hit some movie news items, and then we'll end up the show at the end with our recommendation for the episode. So stay tuned. You're listening to Footcandle Films here on themesh.tv.
Hey, this is Andrew Moose from the Street Circle Drive podcast here on The Mesh. Interested in promoting your business to an online audience? Your ad could be right here. Consider advertising on the Mesh Podcast Network. Head over to themesh.tv for details.
Welcome back to Footcandle Films here on themesh.tv. This is Alan Jackson and Chris Fry with the Footcandle Film Society and Footcandle Film Festival here with you again. Chris, we had the first part of our show with the reviews, Toy Story 4, The Dead Don't Die. Now we move on to the back half of the show where we talk about some movie news and recommendations. Before we do, though, I just want to call out a couple quick things. You've heard me mention the word Footcandle a couple times in this, both the title of the show and our film society and film festival. Well, you can learn more about what we do as a film society out here in Western North Carolina, just outside of Charlotte. And that is on footcandle.org. That's where we post all of the screenings we have. we host a lot of screenings. We work with a lot of organizations on partnership screenings of films, discussions, and, of course, our festivals, too. We do have our next festival coming up in September of 2019. It'll be September 27th through the 29th of this year, held in Hickory, North Carolina, which is just northwest outside of Charlotte. And it is going to be a 3 full days of films. This is our 5th year doing the festival. We have probably between 30 and 35 films coming out that are going to be shown that weekend, with 6 different awards to be given out. We've got filmmakers visiting and coming to the area to be a part of the screenings for us. Should be a really great weekend. We're excited as always. And I know we'll be talking about it a little bit more in the next couple episodes as we get closer. But if you have any plans on the last weekend of September or want to change them to come join us in Western North Carolina, change them, come visit us. And please drop us a line if you're hearing about it through the show and you want to make sure you know that we know that you're coming into town. We'd love to get connected with you and kind of say hi in person. So make sure we do that. Chris, is there anything I'm forgetting about the festival we need to make sure we communicate?
No, I think that's it.
The films will be announced the latter half of July, and tickets will be available on sale about that same time. So it should be a lot of fun. We're looking forward to it.
So just to clarify, the Film Society is footcandle.org, but the film festival information will be up at footcandlefilmfestival.com. Footcandlefilmfestival.com. Yeah.
Although there'll be a link from the footcandle.org going to the festival too. So you're covered either way you end up there.
Absolutely.
All right, Chris, let's go ahead and hit some movie news items. And mine are both industry related news items. And I think you've got one that's maybe more artist creative
you could
update.
say it's a little industry interesting now.
Okay, well, I look forward to talking about it.
Okay.
Let me hit this first one.
Sure.
You and I have recently become better fans of the AMC movie theater chain.
True.
So
so happens they're one of the only games in town.
It's true. For us here in the town we live in, it's about the only true big multiplex theater we have to see films.
Sure.
But, my relationship with AMC was pretty sour for a long time. I did not enjoy going to the movie theater. I thought customer service was pretty bad. I thought wait times were bad. It's just not great.
Okay.
But then AMC did a really smart thing and came out with their AMC Stubs program, and where you pay the monthly fee, and it's kind of what was the service I've already forgotten in my head?
Movie Pass.
Oh, what Movie Pass?
Does it still exist?
I think it does.
Okay.
I just don't know anybody who has it.
Right.
It's what Movie Pass aspired to be. AMC got it right. It's a little more expensive, but well worth it. You and I probably go see...
Being a little bit more expensive, they're actually able to stay solvent.
That's true. You and I probably go see, 3, 4, 5 movies a month at the movie theater, somewhere in that neighborhood. That. Mm-hmm. So we pay for... We get our benefit from the subscription.
Sure.
So I am a little better in favor of AMC. Now they've gone to reserve seating for all the films, which is a big deal for me, because I'm always the guy that was trying to get there 30 minutes early to make sure I get a good seat, and now I don't have to do that and feel good about it. Anyway, all that being said, I'm a little more favorable on AMC. They still got some things to work on, and still the local theater has some challenges, some things to do a little better.
Sure.
But this was an interesting thing they announced. So AMC Theaters is launching a new program called AMC Artisan Films.
Okay.
As a programming marketing effort to put a spotlight on character and narrative-driven movies as an alternative to blockbusters. This is all coming from Variety, by the way. Variety, their film news roundup.
They're targeting doing more independent films.
Quote from their executive vice president of worldwide programming saying, because AMC is the industry's top choice for blockbuster movies, many consumers don't realize that we play more elevated and celebrated films than anyone else in North America. With the launch of AMC Artisan Films, we aim to expose more moviegoers to specialized films and increase their theatrical success.
So that's how The Dead Don't Die came to Hickory.
There you go. That's right. Yeah. So basically said they're seeking earlier runs in platform releases while holding the films longer in the theater to give audiences more time to learn about them from other people. So it's just a concept theory that they have about they're now putting a little more energy into saying that they want to have specialty films earlier in the theaters and stay longer so they kind of catch up with the buzz that maybe audiences are building for it. Think about this. This actually kind of applies.
Interesting.
Here in Hickory, where we are, our hometown, we have the one AMC theater. And one of two things typically happens with the, quote, specialty films that come into town. Okay. They show up and you don't know they're there.
That often happens.
And they're gone after a week.
They have a week engagement.
Yeah.
Right.
Or 2, they come much, much later in their theatrical run after all the buzz has kind of started to subside, and now they're finally catching up and showing the films here.
Right.
Sounds like if AMC Artisan Films is a legitimate program they're trying to do and really put some time and energy behind it, the idea is that getting them earlier in their platform release, meaning that they show up sooner in these movie theaters and they stay longer, which I think is the 2 things you've got to do to make these smaller films successful.
Right.
Because if you're someone who listens to NPR radio and they're talking about a film, you want to be able to see that film kind of that same within a week or so of hearing that interview. Otherwise, you forget about it.
Sure.
And you don't want to hear that, oh, well, yeah, that film was at the AMC last week for like a week, and sorry, you just missed it. So I hope this initiative works. I'd like to see if it pays off, because I do think we're at a point in the movie business where, yeah, these smaller independent films are just not cutting it in movie theaters because of the release schedules and the amount of time they're given to be successful.
Sure.
That's why so many of them are going so quick online right now, because that seems to be the only way to kind of recoup some of their money. So I hope this works. I really do. It's just nice to see a press release come out and them explicitly say that, yes, we want to do more to give these smaller films more attention.
Yeah, that choice to do more variety is an interesting one, and I hope it pans out, because I'm always for more of that, because honestly, a lot of the films you and I review on the show, we end up having to rent and or watch online, because that's the only way we can see them. And I'd much rather be able to see something in the theater, because a theatrical experience for me, and I think for most people, trumps any other type of experience to be able to see it on the big screen.
So in this same press release news announcement, again, this is from Variety.com, Variety magazine and publication online. Currently, AMC Artisan Films is focusing on Danny Boyle's Yesterday as one example. Future titles will include Midsummer, which is the one from Ari Aster, right? Yep. The follow-up to Hereditary. Blinded by the Light, which I'm not familiar with that one.
Okay. That I'm not familiar with either.
Okay. Downton Abbey, which I don't know if I would really consider that quite the specialty film, but it may need a little more attention to make sure it gets all the audience to come out to the theater for it.
Right.
The Peanut Butter Falcon, which is the one I'm kind of interested in seeing, Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah, I've heard a little bit about that one.
The Kitchen, which I believe is the one with Melissa McCarthy.
Yeah, they're pushing that. To me, it looks like another version of Widows.
It does.
Very similar.
And then Where'd You Go, Bernadette, which is the one with
Linklater,
Richard Linklater, starring. Oh my gosh, my memory is getting so bad. What is her name? Kate Blanchett.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, Kate Blanchett.
God, I've got to work.
Billy
on that.
Crudup, and
yeah. So anyway, that's the kind of films that they say specifically in their news item. That's what we're focusing on. Those types of films. So not the shoestring budget, super low budget films, but the ones that are not franchises. They're not sequels. They're not blockbusters.
Right.
Maybe skewing a little older demographics, audience-wise. That's where they're trying to put their energy for. And I'm all for it.
Interesting.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
So, Chris, what have you got for us?
So, I am really excited because I got to see Paul Thomas Anderson's latest film the day it was released.
What? He came out with a new film?
He did.
When?
He collaborated with somebody he's collaborated with before, Tom York of Radiohead. He actually directed a video for them off their last album, Moonshaped Pool of Daydreaming, I think is the name of the song. And that was a really cool video. So Mr. York has released, or is releasing, I think, a new album. Solo album, yes, not with Radiohead.
Yep.
And so he and Paul Thomas Anderson collaborated. Here's what makes this kind of unique is that they released it on Netflix. It is in IMAX theaters I think it was only there for like 2 or 3 days, but maybe it's still in bigger cities. Maybe you can still go see it in an actual theater. So it did have a very short theatrical release.
Okay.
But it was also released on Netflix. And that is where, because, would I have liked to see it in IMAX? Yes, but I live in Hickory, and it wasn't having a limited theatrical release here. But it did show up on Netflix, and I watched it, and I liked it. And it was just really cool to be able to see somebody like Paul Thomas Anderson do kind of like a secret collaboration that was just kind of then thrown out there. And it was really, really cool. So if you're interested in Paul Thomas Anderson, or if you're interested in Thom Yorke / Radiohead, I would and you have a Netflix subscription, I would definitely recommend you check it out. This is not my recommendation for the episode.
Oh, it's not? Okay.
Yeah, but it was kind of a unique thing that happened. You were talking about it's kind of all film related or theater related. So this kind of was like a distribution type thing that we've talked about before, how Netflix is kind of shaking things up with the way they're getting films that sometimes have theatrical releases, sometimes don't.
This is the Anima,
yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's also the name of the album that he's come out with. And it was just really it's very does a lot of dance stuff in it. There's not a lot of dialogue. He does sing some song lyrics. But it's just really kind of a Buster Keaton-esque type short film. It's about 15 minutes long.
Interesting.
It's really, and it's just, obviously it's very visual, lots of colors, cinematography is really cool. It's just really, it's almost like who's the guy, Michel Gondry? Mm-hmm. It's almost like a Michel Gondry type thing to Radiohead, except it doesn't necessarily rely on a lot of practical effects as much as it does dancing in choreography.
Interesting. Okay. Well,
so yeah.
Hey, 15 minutes. I'll be checking that out probably right after we stop recording here. So cool. But it does bring up something I want to mention that I think is incredibly depressing to think about. Paul Thomas Anderson's IMDb page has nothing going on. Like no in production. Did it
have Anima though? Before?
Probably not. But true. He may be working on something that's just not getting. But it's still just like, I know he's someone who normally takes a little more time between his films. I think going between Inherent Vice and Phantom Thread was like 3 years. Okay. I hope we're not having to wait too much longer, because Phantom Thread, I mean, you and I talked about it.
Yeah,
I still will hold that film in really, really high regard.
I guess it depends on how long it takes him to convince Daniel Day-Lewis to come back out of retirement yet again.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. But he does keep himself busy with a lot of music-related small projects. He did a lot of music videos for the band Haim. He's done, obviously, the one now for Thom Yorke. He's done Radiohead bits, concerts, footage, everything. So he stays busy. I just, don't forget about your features. It's okay to make a nice big movie for us, too. And very, very anxious, especially after Phantom Thread. I'm really curious what he's going to do next. So... okay, so I'm going to go on the complete opposite spectrum here. Chris, we've talked about Marvel superhero movies, and I'm not going to get into what movies they're planning on doing, new ones coming up, because we've done that in the past.
Okay.
Marvel's at a little bit of a point where they haven't really announced what their next big batch of films are. They're kind of keeping that under wraps for a little while, so we'll see what happens. But from a business standpoint, I don't know if you were aware, Avengers Endgame. You remember that film?
I have heard of it.
Okay.
Yes.
I think a few people saw it.
Yes.
It has not left theaters yet. And as of today, at the time of this recording, the version of Endgame that is being played now is a little different.
Oh, good.
They added, is what they're saying in the press release, 7 minutes.
Wow. It's already over 3 hours. Is it over 3 hours already? 7
new minutes to the film. There's a reason they did this.
Sure, to make more money?
Well, I mean, yeah, but there's a specific reason they want to make more money.
Okay.
So let me make sure I'm saying this correctly. As of the time,
is this an Avatar related thing? Okay.
As of before this weekend, $36.3 million away from beating Avatar as the all-time champion of the movie theaters.
Okay.
So what do you do? Well, I think Endgame was still bringing in maybe $3 or $4 million a weekend, in these later weeks. So it didn't really have much of a chance of hitting that record.
Sure.
Running out the next few weeks. So what do? You announce to the world, especially to the comic book,
to the internet
fan.
Yeah, sure.
Say, hey, we're releasing it with 7 more minutes. There's going to be a special scene that was deleted from the original that we've restored. There's going to be a special message at the beginning. There's going to be all this other stuff.
Vomit in my mouth. That's disgusting.
And
a special message
from
at the
the
beginning.
directors. Yes.
Thank you so much, because we really wanted to make more money.
We are now a lot richer now, so thank you.
Congratulations.
Wow. And they're also giving out a limited edition poster.
Does it say sucker on
coming
it?
out this weekend. So, yes, this is all in hopes. And they've even openly said,
we want to beat Avatar.
We want to beat the record. That's out there pretty clear right now. So, Endgame is still in the theaters. Has not left the theaters yet. It's obviously an impressive run money-wise.
Sure.
We will see if they pull off the feat of getting another $36 million.
See, in all honesty, I liked Endgame okay. I thought it didn't bother me as much as Infinity War did. I've only seen it once. I wouldn't mind seeing it again, but there is no way I'm going to pay them to go see it in the theater again, because I do not want to give them that satisfaction.
Wow, okay.
It's such a blatant money grab. I just can't. I can't do that.
I mean, the poster is pretty cool. That's like I'm just going to say. Wow. No, I'm not going out to see it again. I've got too many other films I'd rather go see.
Sure.
I saw Endgame twice. I paid my money. I did my part. So I'm good. Just, interesting. There is something about the clout of saying we've got the biggest box office hit of all time. Otherwise, you're saying you're second.
Here's the thing, though, and I'm not familiar with the logistics of how Avatar did it, so I don't know. Maybe did they do a similar thing where it was about to leave and they re-released something so people would come back out? I feel like I understand you wanted to be number one. You wanted to make the best movie you can ever make. I think most people, when they're making a movie, that's what they try to do, is they try to make the best movie they can. My thing is, let the movie stand on its own. If it beats Avatar on its own, awesome. I do like it better than Avatar. It had some more going on. There's more of a story arc. But don't do some cheap gimmick just so you can beat Avatar. I feel like that's cheating, essentially, is what I'm saying. So I understand them wanting to do it, but why not just let the movie do it on its own merit, I guess, is my question.
I don't know.
But
I mean, even Robert Downey Jr., star of Avengers Endgame, is in on the whole thing on Twitter. He even puts up a picture, somebody drew a picture of Iron Man, and he puts on the post, "You want to make history?" It's like, the game has yet to end.
That is... man.
I'm just really upset, Chris.
You are. I want to go out and pick it and say, wait for Redbox or something.
Yeah.
You want to be part of history? Come on. You want to be part of history of giving multimillionaire stars even richer? How dumb, sadly, how dumb do you think the American public is? That's so...
Oh, I knew what hornet's nest I was stepping into when I brought the story
Jim
up.
Jarmusch should have put that in The Dead Don't Die. Hey, idiots, why are you in here watching this movie? Why don't you go next door and watch Endgame for the 18th time? Yeah, oh, man. Yikes.
Oh, that's funny.
Well, you got the reaction you were looking for.
I kind of knew what I was getting into on this one. I'm like,
wow.
Oh, Chris is not going to like this.
No, Chris is not. Wow.
And plus the fact too, I mean, just, to kind of go along with Chris's point, I mean, if you don't want to go pay the money to make history and see this film topple.
To make history for a bunch of rich white dudes.
It's coming out on digital HD on July 30th. So you got 30 more days.
Right.
So anyway, it's probably going to have all the deleted scenes and everything like that with it too. So,
here's the thing. If I actually felt like there was something they deleted, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I would be proven wrong, and people would just say with rapturous accolades, oh, it just changed my attitude towards Endgame. It was such a different movie. It was so amazing, But yeah, until that happens, I have a sour taste in my mouth from that.
Okay. All right. Well, that ends our news segment. Putting Chris in a bad mood is my goal with the news this week. So those are our new segments. Let's go ahead and move into the last part of our show, Chris. This is the part that we always can sometimes be a little bit of a challenge for me, because I feel like I've recommended every film I like that we haven't talked about.
Got you.
So to try to keep coming up with other films to recommend, it's been a little challenging, but lo and behold, I've actually got two.
Wow.
Well, one is going to be a follow-up to one of yours.
Okay.
And then one will be a fresh one for me.
Okay.
So I do have a couple to talk about, but...
Actually, you know what? I'll do 2 as well.
Oh, good. Let's match each other on this.
There you go.
These are our recommendations.
Because one is a follow-up on one of your recommendations.
Awesome. Let's tit for tat. I like it. This is where Chris and I both talk about a film that we've either got a chance to recently catch up with, or we want to recommend. Maybe it's something you might have missed. Maybe it's something that's available online now as kind of an exclusive online that we want to make sure you're aware of, or just a great film that we feel like we had a chance to catch back up with and want to bring back to your attention. So, Chris, why don't you go first, and then we'll kind of ping pong back and forth. Do you want to mention the one that's a follow up to mine first?
Yeah. So we're just basically going to have a quick on air production meeting. Don't pay any attention to us. You want to do the follow ups first? You want to do?
Yeah. Follow up. Okay. Do the one that's a follow up to me, and I'll talk about the one that's a follow up to yours.
So, thanks to Alan, I caught up with MacGruber, and I think I may have just made Alan's day just by mentioning the movie title.
Happy now.
Yeah. This film, while not for everyone, I really enjoyed it. It's funny. It takes off the MacGruber character from Saturday Night Live skit from a while ago that Will Forte did. Kind of a knockoff MacGyver that's pretty much a flaming idiot. Just so good. And I'm not going to say every joke in the film works, but man, so many do land. Something that and Kristen Wiig is in there as well.
Oh, yeah, she's great.
And she's great. Val Kilmer is interesting in the film. I'm not sure he knows what he's doing because sometimes I'm unaware if he's really in on the joke. I think he is, but I don't know.
And unfortunately, I can't say the name of his character because I feel like it might dip into the big joke. That's unfortunately something we can't say. So,
right. Just interesting. You know who I was really taken aback by and surprised by? Not that I've ever been a huge fan, haven't really thought one way or the other. Ryan Phillippe.
Oh, yeah.
In this movie
surprisingly
is so good. The only thing I really think I'd really seen him in was Gosford Park, and he had a small part in that. I knew who he was, but I just didn't really care about him. Man, in this movie, he is so good. I'm like, why does he not do more funny stuff? I just like, I don't know, but he plays like the handsome guy who's like the with it military guy that basically MacGruber is always trying to compete against or prove himself to. Man, so
although I'll tell you, I can't look at celery the same way anymore.
Have you eaten any celery?
Oh, no, I don't eat celery anyway, so that was never really a problem. But, I will say, and that movie still just makes me laugh. It's still one of my best cinematic experiences going to the movie theater in an almost empty movie theater. Me and a good friend of mine, a childhood friend, went. And it's just you're in the mood to just laugh, and this movie delivered for me.
Oh,
so
I can imagine. Yeah. I wish I had seen this in a theater.
The sex scene between Will Forte and Kristen Wiig,
yes,
and the direction it takes is amazing, hilarious. So I love this film.
Yeah,
that and the assembling the team early in the film, and where that ends, it's too good.
Yeah.
So.
It's good.
It knows how to play with the right cliches of the action movie hero, but doesn't play it safe either. It goes as far as it can go, and it's
sometimes
the funnier
past.
for it. Yeah,
true. Sees the line and drives right over it. So
good. Well, I'm so happy you caught up with that film.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to return the favor, Chris. I caught up with a film of yours that I know was actually your number one film of last year.
Oh, okay.
Bad Times at the El Royale.
Yes.
Let me just go ahead and lay this out there. Okay. I did not give it. I'm not giving it a 5-star review.
That's fair.
I can't say it was my favorite of the year.
I can say that I may have overhyped it.
However, I will say this film had a lot of great things going for it.
Okay.
I will say that for the first hour, I'm totally enraptured with this film. Okay. I'm to the point of saying, yeah, this may be my favorite film I've seen the past year.
Okay.
The last hour does lose some steam for me. Doesn't resolve itself as stylistically nicely as the first half does.
That's fair.
But the first half has so much great mystery and interesting characters. The setting is so good. So just for those not aware, this is a Drew Goddard directed, and I believe wrote as well. 7 strangers, all kind of meeting, some by coincidence, maybe not, at the El Royale Hotel. Mm-hmm. Which to me is one of the greatest sets of a film now.
Oh, man. The set's amazing.
The inside the lobby, the fact that it's right on the state line between California and Nevada. And that kind of plays some interesting parts in the film, too. The whole scene Just the set itself when we're being introduced to the hotel is wonderful.
Yeah.
So that's why I love the opening 30, 40 minutes of this film. It does generate a mystery. There's a lot of great, interesting characters. There's some interesting twists. I'm not going to spoil anything with the film. My only misgiving is I was hoping and wanting the film to be at one level of mystery, and it had no intentions of going to that level.
Correct.
I come to find out at the end. It was a little disappointing for me that it didn't. However, it did not make it not a great film. Just loses a little bit for me by the end.
Okay.
But I will say, I had a great time with it.
Cool.
There's very split reactions to this film online, which I was really surprised by.
Yeah, I'm surprised by the people that like actively like really despise it.
I can understand some people saying, it was fine.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. It was great. But the people who just said they actively hate it, I don't get that.
Yeah,
I really don't get that.
I don't
at
either.
all. So it was a surprising catching up with reviews because, of course, I hadn't heard any reviews about it until I saw the film. But I did have a really good time.
Good.
Again, my wife and I watched it, and that first half, we're into it.
You're in.
I mean, we're just like... I think our kids needed something, and I'm like, no, we're not stopping the movie. Like,
we got to finish this.
We got to keep going through.
Cool.
I wish it had ended with as much enthusiasm as I had in the first, but it still ended successfully, and it was a good film, and I liked it a lot. So thank you for the recommendation there.
I'm glad you got to see
All
it.
right, now let's do our actual recommendation here. So Chris, go ahead and tell us what we should check out.
So I caught up with a film that I've been meaning to catch up with because just the premise intrigued me, but I just never had a chance until recently. It was a film that came out in 2016 / I think in the US it was 2017. But it is the film Personal Shopper by Olivier Assayas.
Oh, yes.
And that stars Kristen Stewart as the title, Personal Shopper. And she works for like a famous person, I think, who is a model. And she's the personal shopper in Paris, and she refuses to leave the city specifically until she makes contact with her twin brother, who previously died there. And then her life becomes a little bit more complicated when mysteriously she starts getting texts on her phone from someone. And it's just kind of weird. So it's billed as kind of a drama / horror / mystery. And I don't really want to say much more about it. It's just really, it is slow. Okay. I will say Kristen Stewart's good in it. But it is kind of slow and you're not really sure what's going on. And it's really interesting. And the end of the film also is really interesting. So I don't know. It's kind of a thinking person's, I could see where, maybe watching this around Halloween. So maybe I'm recommending it too early.
Oh, wow.
But, because it does have some creepy, odd things happening.
Oh, I didn't know that was.
Yeah, but not overly so.
Well, I know, but I didn't even know that was even slightly in the direction.
No, there's some odd stuff going on. But it was just a really interesting movie watch experience. I wish that this could have been a film that we would have brought for our film society, although really? I don't think a lot of our members would have really liked it necessarily, but I think it would have definitely generated some interesting discussion. Okay, because there's a lot here about fame, there's a lot here about family, there's a lot here about just belief and believing in things, and not sure. I mean, yeah, the interpretation of some of the final scenes could be very interesting. So anyways, Personal Shopper, filmed by Olivier Assayas. I recommend that.
Awesome. It's great. So my recommendation is kind of bringing back a classic film for me.
Okay.
My youngest son has in the last year taken up guitar and has gotten very good. He's a very talented musician, much more so than I ever have been. I'm not musically talented at all.
Okay.
I'm a great music listener. I just cannot play or sing a bit of it. But he's gotten into a lot of 70s kind of classic rock. He likes loves Queen, Van Halen. Got into Jimi Hendrix. Got Pink Floyd. He's big into Pink Floyd now. Just a lot of stuff we're playing.
Nick and I need to have a talk.
Oh yeah. No, he's totally into Pink Floyd. now, so
we need
you
to
guys
have a
need to have a connect.
We
there.
do.
So I'm trying to go through and say, where can I bridge some gaps with him on my love of movies, especially movies that have to do with music and rock and roll, and how can I introduce him to some of these interesting movies that I think he might like. So we watched Almost Famous.
Okay.
Cameron Crowe from 2000. This is the one that kind of introduced the character of Penny Lane, as played by Kate Hudson. We had basically William Miller, a 15-year-old lover of music who wants to be a rock journalist. And he gets an assignment from Rolling Stone magazine kind of by chance, by just having done something really good for Cream magazine, I think, before that. And he basically becomes friends and follows along a band called Stillwater, which is fronted by lead singer Jeff Beebe, who's played by... the names are escaping
Is it Billy
me.
Crudup again?
No, Billy Crudup is the guitar player, Russell Hammond.
And Jason Lee's
Jason Lee is Jeff Beebe, the lead singer. You've got Frances McDormand playing the mother of William Miller. You got Zooey Deschanel playing his sister. It's a great cast, and it is Cameron Crowe. Now, I will say that there was a period of time where all of Cameron Crowe's movies I was huge fans of.
Yeah.
Say Anything, even Singles I like.
I like Singles.
Jerry Maguire I like. Almost Famous I really like.
He had a run where he was
After
on
Almost
fire.
Famous, I will say there's a drop. Okay. And I can't say I've been a big fan of his last 2 or 3 films.
I think I only went after that. I will say I loved, still like, I'll have to rewatch it, but I'm pretty sure I'd like it.
Vanilla Sky. Yeah, that one's good.
I loved it.
But Elizabethtown, yeah. We Bought a Zoo, no.
Yeah.
I did not ever see Aloha. I heard that was pretty bad.
It is bad. I've seen
but
it.
Almost Famous, I will say, top 10 film for me.
Okay.
Love it. It's almost a perfect film.
Almost Famous, almost
perfect. There are some Cameron Crowe overdone bits of dialogue and overdone scenes that are a little cringeworthy now watching in hindsight. A couple of scenes. There's a scene, if you're familiar with the film, up in an airplane where everybody's kind of feeling like they're about to die because of a crash and start spouting out things about their lives' secrets. And there's one that's just a cringeworthy joke now, and unfortunately it just doesn't play very well in today's culture, society as much. But regardless, besides all those little moments that just don't work as well, it's still, to me, as a complete film, so good.
Okay.
It's got one of the best endings of all films in my mind. The last couple of scenes, the way the film ends. I love the character of Russell, played by Billy Crudup. I think Penny Lane is a really great character, the way she's realized in the film. I think Patrick Fugit playing William Miller is really good.
He's great.
The music's good. It just worked. And I will say this, after the end of the film, my son looked at me and said, I think that may be my favorite film now. I'm like,
nice. You're like,
bingo.
mission accomplished.
Mission accomplished. I'm done here. My work is done.
Wow.
Here.
Okay.
So Almost Famous, I've just got to say, I mean, it's one that doesn't get as much acclaim as maybe a Jerry Maguire or Say Anything.
True.
But I think it's Cameron Crowe's best film. It's definitely his most personal film, because this is actually something he himself, I think, was a rock journalist, obviously, and had a very similar ascent as a young man into getting into the rock and roll world. So it's a very personal film to him. I think it shows in the film. Great characters, great moments, great music. So one of my favorites, still holds up, and I'm so glad my 12-year-old loves it too. So
yeah,
anyway,
that's awesome.
What's your recommendation, Chris?
So,
you did
shopper.
yours.
Yeah, I did mine.
God, today I am just off my game, Chris. I am.
That's all right.
I'm
It's
not
Friday.
remembering actors' names. It's Friday afternoon. It's like right at 5 o'clock.
I know.
I'm checked out. I'm sorry. Personal Shopper was your recommendation. Mine is Almost Famous, but we also cross-reference each other's Bad Times at
Previous
the El
picks.
Royale
Yeah.
and MacGruber, which I'm so happy you saw MacGruber.
I
So
have seen
happy.
it. It's good.
Moose, you've seen MacGruber, right? Moose is our engineer. Looking through the booth here, he's cheering back there as we talk about MacGruber. So
It's
happy,
good stuff.
Perfect, good. He's a big fan. All right, so that's it. I think we're going to wrap up the show then. So, Toy Story 4, positive reviews. Both of us liked. Chris liked it more than I did. I had a few issues, but still a recommendation. Then we're both disappointed with The Dead Don't Die.
It can
but
die.
I found a few more things to find some enjoyment in it than maybe Chris did. Then we had our movie news items, and just now our recommendations. So, Chris, if anybody has any feedback for us or wants to get in touch with us, what should they do at this point?
So you may email us feedback to info@themesh.tv with Footcandle in the subject line. You can also subscribe to us if you haven't already on iTunes and leave a star rating or review to help us reach new listeners. We always appreciate that. You can also listen to us on Spotify and Stitcher. Those are other ways you can keep in contact with us. Also, follow us on Letterboxd or even on Twitter. At Chris Fry, at Alan Jackson, and at Footcandle Film are the ways that you can do that. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention, like Alan tossed out earlier, we do have a Footcandle Film Festival coming up September 27th through the 29th. So if you are in the Western North Carolina area, put that on your calendar.
Yeah, that's right. So please keep your eyes open for that. We'd love to see you joining us in Western North Carolina in late September. All right, Chris, we're going to go ahead and wrap up the show. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and we'll look forward to talking to you next time.
See you in the ticket line.
Special thanks to Carpal Tuller for the show theme music. For more about Carpal Tuller, visit www.carpaltuller.com. You've been listening to The Mesh, an online media network of shows and programs ranging from business to arts, sports to entertainment, music to community. All programs are available on the website as well as through iTunes and YouTube. Check us out online at themesh.tv. Discover other network shows and give us feedback on what you just heard.